evening, everybody. First of all, thank you for Simplex for hosting us. We're here at the Big Things community meetup, combined with Neo4j's community meetup here. And we'll be talking today about 2 use cases of usage of Neo4j. And right now, Erez from Simplex will present you the company a bit and a bit what they are doing here at Simplex. So Erez, your stage, and afterwards we'll have Yehonathan talking.
תודה רבה שהגעתם. אני לא אחפור עכשיו יותר מדי, קצת מבאס שעושים לך יותר מדי פיצ'ינג, אבל אם כבר הגעתם לפה שרק תדעו לאיפה הגעתם, אז אנחנו סימפלקס, חברה שמספקת שירותי תשלומים, זה כרגע בעיקר לעולם של ביטקוין וקריפטוקרנסיס, אז אם אתם רוצים לקנות ביטקוין בצורה קלה עם כרטיס אשראי, סיכוי טוב שאתם תעשו את זה דרכנו. מוצר שקצת דומה לפייפל כזה, שבפועל סוחרים אנחנו נותנים להם פתרון של fraud detection מלא, שצריך להם כל בעיה של כרטיס אשראי גנוב או משהו, תיפול עלינו. אז זה ככה מה שבקטנה המוצר. מה שבפועל אנחנו עושים פה, יש לנו פה גם פיתוח וגם אנליזה, שחלק מהאנליזה המפתחים נמצאים פה איתכם. יש לנו גם בעצם דפי צ'קאוט רגילים, כרטיס אשראי עם כל ההבטחה שנוגעת לזה, PCI וכל הקלות האחרות שאם אתם מכירים על תחום של התשלומים. ובנוסף, החלק בבקד שלנו, מה שאנחנו עושים זה פשוט מערכת של ניהול מניעת הונאות. מטרה שלנו למצוא פשוט את הגנבים שנמצאים בהמוניהם בתחום של הקריפטוקרנסי. הסיבה שבחרנו את התחום של ביטקוין, בעיקר בשביל ההתחלה של החברה, אבל כרגע זה הדבר המרכזי שאנחנו עושים וגם נעשה בזמן הקרוב. כי פשוט כל מי שיש לו כרטיס אשראי גנוב ברשת, המוצר הראשון שהוא ילך לקנות יהיה קריפטוקרנסי. כי זה נורא קל להמיר את זה לכסף, זה אחלה מוצר. הבעיה היא שאנחנו רוצים להיות בעצם הדרך של כל בן אדם שרוצה להשיג קריפטוקרנסי, להשיג ביטקוין, לקנות בצורה קלה דרך הכרטיס אשראי שלו, זה משהו שהיום הוא לא טריוויאלי עדיין בתחום הביטקוין, גם 4 שנים אחרי שהקמנו את החברה. ואנחנו די המובילים היום בשוק הקריפטו בלתת את המוצר הזה. זה שאנחנו עושים חלק ניכר באותו בקאנד שלנו, שבסופו של דבר מסוגל לקבל את ההחלטה בצורה אוטומטית, האם לאשר עסקה או לא. תחשבו על זה, עוברים אצלנו לא מעט מיליונים של דולרים בתוך המערכת, ובסוף אנחנו מספקים אישור. כל עסקה שאנחנו אישרנו, אם טעינו, רק כרטיס אשראי גנוב, ויש לנו אחוזים נכבדים בדו ספרתי של עסקאות שהן של פרודסטרים, אם אנחנו בטעות אישרנו עסקה כזאת, אנחנו הולכים להוציא את הכסף מהכיס ולשלם לסוחר את הכסף, כי הוא שלח ביטקוין, שזה נגיד $11,000 היום. אנחנו צריך לשלם את הכסף ושלם לנו את הכסף, בכל זאת. זה המשמעות של גרנטי. עכשיו תחשבו שיש מערכת אוטומטית שהיא באחריות שלכם, והיא מקבלת החלטות כאלה. עכשיו, יש שם כל הזמן פרוד, המערכת שלנו עוד לא משלמת, ולפעמים גם עובדים עליה, ואנחנו די פעם גם מפצ'פצ'ים אותה. ותחשבו מה המשמעות אתם בתור דיבלופר שמפצ'פצ'ים את המערכת, מעלים אותה לפרודקשן, ועכשיו היא ממשיכה לאשר מיליונים של דולרים, ויכול להיות שהיא מאשרת עסקאות שהיא לא הייתה אמורה לאשר. אז זה האתגר. יש לנו פה צוות, היום צוות ארגון הפיתוח מנוי איזה 20 איש, בנוסף יש לנו דאטה סיינס ואנליסטים שגם כותבים בקוד פייתון בנוסף על זה. ואחת הטכנולוגיות שאנחנו משתמשים גם היום, הולכים לדבר עליה פה, היא Neo4j בעצמנו כגרף דאטאבייס, לעשות חיבורים לא טריוויאליים בין עסקאות. כי שוב, פרודסטרים רוצים לגרוף ביטקוין, ושווה להם להשקיע הרבה מאוד כסף להיות מתוחכמים ולעבוד עלינו. רוצים להשתמש בטכנולוגיות הכי חזקות כדי למנוע את ההונאות האלה. כמובן מגייסים, כמו כל החברות בתעשייה, מגייסים הרבה, אנחנו גדלים הרבה, מחפשים גם מנהלים, גם מפתחים. אם אתם מכירים חברים שלכם, אז נשמח, קישורים. זהו, תהנו.
Okay, hello everybody. So we'll do it in English. It's fine for everybody? Please. Okay, I'm Yehonathan from Harmony. I'm going to talk about, my goal is to tell you something interesting about graph database. I've prepared something. I'm a PowerPoint master, as you will see. So if you want to take it in another direction, ask questions and to go deeper in some detail that's important to you as an audience, that's fine for me. I don't have a special agenda. I have 19 slides, so feel free to interrupt and to ask. And Okay, so in order to make it effective, how many of you are familiar with the concept of a graph in general? Okay, let's do it another way. How many of you are not familiar? Okay, everybody is familiar with a graph. How many of you are familiar with property-based graph or property model graph? Okay. And how many of you have used graph database in the last 2 years or so? So not so many. So we'll see. Okay, if something is not clear, just let me know and I will explain. Okay, a couple of words about Harmony, the company we're also hiring, like everybody. So Harmony is an old startup, or a startup that has not yet succeeded. Traditionally, the product is a plugin for Outlook that allows Outlook user to interact with the Microsoft Office 365 ecosystem. That is a nightmare from a UI perspective. So we bring a more decent UI to think about Google Drive. It's not so excellent as a UI. Double it by 10 or divide it by 10 from a UI experience. You get what is SharePoint and Office 365. Many apps. Every time an application gets trendy in the market, like Trello, Slack, Microsoft copy it fastly and deploy it to the Office 365 market. And Office 365 users are faced with, I don't know, 20, 30 apps. They don't know how to use it. Completely different UI, completely different user experience. So we try to bring, our traditional product try to solve the UI problem for the Office 365 user. And recently we have decided to handle another issue, which is the, can someone press next for the slide? Sorry, I don't have. So I work for a company with, for the Office 365 market, but my computer is not a Windows. So I'm a friend, I'm not a computer. Okay, so our space that we handle is what we call the information worker. You have here the definition. Basically, we are all information worker. Everyone that sends or receives email or write or review document is an information worker. And we want to help information workers in the enterprise context. So our product is a B2B product. The people that are going to pay us are companies, not users. And you will see that it's a key business detail that influence a lot the graph database that we choose. The fact that we are B2B and that our customers are organizations. Next, please. So today, if you think about an information worker in general, not especially in the Office 365 market, you have to deal with many artifacts. What I mean by an artifact is something like an email, a document, a calendar invite, task in Trello, CRM opportunities, customer tickets, etc. Many kind of artifacts. And all those artifacts are managed and created and viewed by many apps. So we have, I don't know, 10 kind of artifacts and maybe 40 or 50 apps to deal with those artifacts. But from the information worker, it doesn't care too much about the fact that the data is split. Let me say in a different way. The fact that the data is split across artifacts and application is a headache for the information worker. Because if you want to know, to decide what to do regarding a customer, for example, let's say you are a salesperson, so you have to go to your email, to your document, to Google Drive, to Excel maybe, to the CRM, to the sales, so many apps to handle actually the same topic. And we want to help, so Harmony wants to help people to deal with all this information in a much more effective way. Next, please. So there is this big concept that we call deep work. It's a marketing concept. There is a book actually, Deep Work. And basically, and it's also relevant for you as a regular person, not as information worker, that use your phone. It's very hard today to stay focused with all the notification and the apps. And the notification, if you think about it, always come not in the context. Right? You are in a meeting and you get a WhatsApp from your wife. Please don't forget to bring the milk. There is no, it never comes in the good time. It's the appropriate time. It's always a distraction, right? Do you agree? So with this agreement, it's very hard today to do what they call deep work. To focus for 10, 20, 30, maybe a minute, maybe an hour on the same topic, because you are always distracted. On the other hand, maybe part of these notifications are related to the topic that you are actually working on. And if you think about it, it's a trivial issue, but the solution is not so trivial. And the fact that we deal with apps in the phone and web apps in the browser or desktop apps in the computer doesn't help us to solve this issue. The best solution that there is today is something like Slack, that allows you in one place with the many channels that you have to get all the notification at least in one application. So it's a partial solution to the problem that we want to tackle. But Slack doesn't want to tackle only this problem. We want to tackle this problem that also Slack is addressing. But even in Slack, it's a headache, because if you miss a notification, it's very difficult to remember what you saw, what you didn't see, and to remember what channel you already saw. And the information is not gathered in the contextual way. You can do search, but search is not a good experience to find relevant information, even in Slack. And they do a good job, but even then, it's very difficult to find again the information that you remember. You saw this information yesterday, but it's very hard to find it if you don't remember exactly where you saw this information. And it's completely stupid if you think about it. I remember I saw something about, let's say, Volvo, but I have to remember, was it in PowerPoint? Was it in Word? Was it in an email? Was it in the CRM? Was it this? Was it there? It's a cognitive burden, we call it. And we are so we are so used to that we didn't think that it's a problem. We take it as a fact. But so we hope, as a company, as a startup, that it's indeed a problem that people are aware of, and also we hope that we will be able to bring a solution to this problem. Next, please. So this is our vision, to allow the information worker to stay zen with all this app and artifact ecosystem. Okay, so how are we going to do that? We want to build a graph around topics. So we believe that, think about a social network, Facebook. The main node, if you think of Facebook as a graph, the main node will be the people. This is the core of the Facebook graph. We believe that in the problem that I've just described, the main thing that will allow to connect artifacts from different apps is going to be the topics that are part of this artifact. So if you have a document that talks about Volvo and an email that mentions Volvo, they should be connected. And if someone looks for Volvo, he should be able to see at once both the email and the document. So this is our bet. So I will just, let's see as an example, this is a screenshot from Neo4j. Let's say that, I don't know if you can read, let's say that Frank wrote a document, how to be happy in 27 days. We are able to detect that this document, the topics of this document are happiness and tips. This is an event that occurred today, let's say. And also Patrick sent an email to Elena. And in the email he said, I'm so happy to dance with you. So we detected that the topics of this email are dance and happiness. And because the happiness is a unique node in the graph, because the topic happiness exists only once, we are able to connect two different artifacts from different apps, from different people. And Patrick doesn't know anything about Frank, just they are part of the same organization, maybe in another location, and somehow our system will be able to suggest this content to Patrick because it talks about the same topic. Is that clear? Questions? Okay.
Privacy issues.
Yeah, privacy issue, for sure, I will mention that.
So doesn't he get overloaded? Wouldn't Patrick suddenly have from Frank and from Elena, would get things that are not relevant? Be overloaded with information.
But if we believe that if it's part of the same topic, if the artifact mentions the same topic, Patrick would be interested to discover this. So let's see how Facebook might tackle this issue. In Facebook, if a friend of you posted an image, Facebook say, okay, if you like this friend, you probably like the image. So in the enterprise, it's not true. Let's say Patrick and Elena. So Patrick likes Elena as a friend because they work together. The fact that Elena works on something is not relevant at all to Patrick. The fact that your coworker is working on something is not relevant to you because the domains that your coworker handled are, there is an intersection, but the fact that your coworker worked on something is not relevant. So we believe that the fact that someone in the company worked on the topic that you're interested in is much more interested to you. This is one part of the algorithm of the ranking. It's not the only part, because obviously we cannot bring everything that talks about happiness. But we believe that it should be the main part, instead of the closeness between Patrick and Elena. Does that answer the question?
Is this solution is only for organizations, or you have some private users?
No,
it's a big problem.
No, for the moment we want to sell only to organizations that are part of the Office 365 ecosystem at the moment. And by the way, Office 365 is not so bad as you may think. Microsoft and the cloud, that seems, to me at least, before I joined this company 6 months ago, I thought it was completely Microsoft, no idea what they do with the cloud. They start to have an idea, and Office 365 is not so bad as you may think.
How do you do the labeling?
Yeah.
Happiness.
Yeah. So if you are a customer, will say NLP and smart stuff, etc. But between developers, we find many different ways to do it naively with workarounds to allow us to enter the market, and then we will improve with NLP. So we have ways to. Basically, what we do is something like text extraction with a bit of refinement, not too much. Great question. So if there is in the audience an NLP expert that want to handle this issue, come and talk to me later.
I don't see the reason for graph. Like, it's only 2 levels, and like, why this is the use case for graph? Like, it's only two levels.
Okay, great question. So the question was, why do we need a graph? And indeed, the first version of the product was without a graph, with Mongo. And the fact that it's a graph, and in the first version, we were building a picture for each user that has no relation to the coworkers. Now we want to be able to put all the artifacts of all the users inside one organization together. Think about just to discover what is the main topic of a user. How would you do that without a graph? I think that the natural thing to do will be to do naive counting. With graph, you have centrality nodes, PageRank algorithm, something that may tell you what is the importance of this topic for this user. Because this topic has many artifacts that connect to, but these artifacts also connect with other topics, so you can build a graph of topics like the PageRank algorithm of Google, and then discover what is the importance of the node, not only by counting how many artifacts it's part of. And also to model it, even if we want just to put it in a database and fetch the data very naively, it's much more convenient to do it in a graph to solve the problem. Otherwise, you have to do manually join tables or redundancy of data, and it becomes very quickly a nightmare. So the graph is dynamism, the fact that it's schema-free, but not only schema-free. Think about the difference between document database and table database, where in the document database, inside of a collection, you have a lot of flexibility because of the fact that you don't have to specify the schema. But when you want to connect between collections, it becomes also a problem with document database. You have either to duplicate the data or to connect, and it's not natural. So in the graph, you solve both issues. You have less features in terms of, if you want to query the properties of this node, it's much less powerful than MongoDB. You don't have nested property, for example, but in terms of connection between nodes, it's much more powerful. Good question. Okay, let's continue. Okay, now we think that we know that we want a graph. How do we choose a graph? And I put here just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 graph database. There are probably other 10, if not more. And so this is what I'm going to talk about, not to tell you our journey. And I don't know yet if the journey has ended, because at the moment the R&D team that deals with the graph database has not yet chose the graph database. But we have developed the product in parallel, even knowing that the graph database that we chose was a temporary one, and at some point we will have to decide that the temporary is the eternal graph database. So this is why I'm going to tell you our journey, and I hope that it will save you a couple of iterations and time and money when you will have to choose your graph database. Next, please. Yeah. Okay. The problem is that we have to define our needs, and we have no idea what our needs because we just start. This is on one hand. On the other hand, we don't want to choose a technology. If we fail, that's not a problem, because we throw it away. But if we succeed, how are we going to stay with this database that may become a technical database? We will have never time to rewrite everything. So we want on one hand to choose a graph database that solves our current issue, and probably all of them are solving the issue, but we want to be sure that it will solve also the issue that we might have a year from now. Okay, so step one, just the POC, we take one. I knew Neo4j from other places, so I told the team, let's do it with Neo4j, let's start. And in fact, it was very simple to migrate the data from MongoDB to Neo4j to model it. Every time you look in the internet for something about graph, you find to a Neo4j article, so they do a great job in marketing also. It looks very mature. As a technology, it's 10 years old or something like that. So it gives you a lot of confidence as a manager. And then you will see, as a manager, yes, but as a developer, you don't want to deal with the old technology. And this is what happened. There is like a tension between me and my developers. I want the time to market, and they want something that is cool. And you will see, oh, we were able somehow to handle this inherent tension. Okay, next, please. One thing that nobody can argue with that is the elegance of the Cypher query language. This is the graph query language for Neo4j. Very, very elegant. I don't want to go too much into the details. You can go to any tutorial or whatever. But even not a real algorithm, but query that might sound difficult to find the friends of the friend of the friend, and how many friends of the friend you have in common with stuff like that. It's very, very 2 lines of Cypher query. It's declarative. It's for someone that has a bit suffered with SQL. When you come there, you breathe. You feel, oh, it's paradise. It's really fun to write Neo4j queries. And you will see that it's not the case with other graph languages. Okay, so we were able to do the POC with Neo4j. Now with the team, okay, what do we choose now? I, as a manager, say, okay, you know what, we have a working solution, let's stick with it. Of course, when I put Neo4j, I told them, we will start and then we'll see. But now that we saw, let's stick with it, it works. So they start to build an Excel with all the features that you can dream about in any graph database, and we picked 3 databases, Neo4j, ORNDB, RNGODB, and we started to model and to fill the matrix. The question is, what are the ranking factors? Okay, this has this one has this feature, this one doesn't have this feature, etc., etc. Okay, how do you... And the most stupid thing that you can do is to try somehow to find coefficient and then choose the one that has the best rank, because it means that it will be like a machine learning trick, but in machine learning usually you don't understand the algorithm of the machine learning and you are not a machine, so probably you're going to do something stupid. So this is how we start. And we picked the 3 of them because we didn't want to look for the 20 database. So this sounds like the most popular. So we decided to compare Neo4j with RNDB with RNGODB. After comparing, we were not able to choose anyone because we were in the status quo like this. Oh, Teco, next, please. And then step 2.5. Okay, what is really important for us? And at some point, we understood better that what is important for us is to be able to choose something that 1 year from now we will not regret. And we thought that the best thing we can do is to choose a graph database with a universal query language, because then we'll be able to easily migrate from one database that supports one language to another database that supports the same language. The problem is that Cypher is very elegant, but it's supported only by Neo4j, and the open source query language is called Grameen. It's supported by much more databases, but it's, as you will see, it's very, very complicated. But we decided to try it. So we rewrote the part of our product that is at the moment very small, maybe 5 or something like maybe 3 or 4 write queries and then 5 read queries. So we rewrote everything from Cypher to Grameen. We learned Grameen after having learned Cypher. And some of the team handled it. Next, please. Sorry, before we rewrote, we have to choose now one database that supports Grameen. So instead of choosing just one graph database, we have to choose one database that supports Grameen. So we went to the Grameen Tinkerpop homepage, and we looked for how many databases support Grameen. And then we understood also a nuance, that there are some databases that support Grameen natively, and there are some databases that support Grameen not natively. Which means that either you have to install a plugin to the database to convert the query in Grameen to the language, the native language of the database, or this is part of the database itself, but anyway there is a transformation, and there is 2 risks. Performance issues, and the risk that when Grameen upgrade, a new version of Grameen, they don't upgrade. So you are stuck with the old version of Grameen and you cannot move on. There is also another risk, that because it's open source, it moves much more slowly. Neo4j, they can do what they want with Cypher. If they think there is a great feature, they can add it. With Grameen, when they want to add something, they have to convince the whole community.
Neo4j only uses Cypher?
Yes, natively. There is a Grameen plugin with Neo4j, but there is something funny.
So I just want to correct you. Actually, Cypher is an open source language. It's open.
Yeah, but nobody supports Cypher.
That's not true.
No, but if there is one, I will be happy to find it, but we didn't find anyone. Because we really love Cypher.
Cypher.org, I'm just saying.
Yeah.
I just want to make sure that it's clear
Okay,
that
okay.
it's not the actual...
Maybe you can make another product that's just Cypher.
That is what?
Cypher to Gram.
Yeah, but then there will be also performance issues and...
You can have a startup.
Yeah. Maybe it's a pivot.
Are you waiting for the go-to-market?
Yeah. So don't be wrong, we really love Neo4j, but the fact that only Neo4j supports Cypher, it's something that you have to deal with somehow. So then the list of the Gremlin friendly database went from 10 to 3.
Is it just a compile time issue?
No, it's the It's the fact that the query that is generated by the compiler is not efficient. And then when you say why my query is not efficient, because there is a bug or an issue in the compiler. It's not the time it takes to compile; it's the effectiveness of the compiled query. So we found only 2 databases that are that support Grameen natively: Genius and DataStax. And after a bit of research, it appears that Grameen and DataStax both are forks from the Titan database that you might have heard of. So we started with Genius because Genius is open source and DataStax is the product, and we are a startup, we want to be cool, let's go for open source. But after a while, we discovered that open source is great, but open source is not polished, and basic stuff like a browser console to inspect your graph, that is trivial in Neo4j, is not there in Genius. And you also have to compose by yourself your database and to choose if you want the backend to be Cassandra or Berkeley something or whatever. And a couple of things didn't work, but we were able somehow to work with Genius. And then we say, okay, let's forget about open source, let's go with a real product. So let's try DataStax. And we are very happy to see that DataStax hired the founder of Gremlin that was also the founder of Titan, Ricardo something. So we felt that it's a technology company, not only a greedy company. So we tried DataStax. Okay, step 4. This is not exactly the same query that I saw before in 2 lines, but a very simple query in Gremlin. It looks something like that. Good luck for trying to understand. It's not because the fonts are small, it's really, really complicated to... But it's a machine, it's Turing complete. Okay. So step 4. Next, please. DataStax. At some point, a developer of mine told us, what is the pricing model of DataStax? And I said, you know what, money is never a matter when you don't have a scaling issue. $100 a month, $200 a month, $500 a month. Not a problem. Okay, let's start with DataStax in our local environment. And in parallel, I contacted a salesperson from DataStax. And then, next please. Okay, how much is that, Karim? Okay, 50,000 a year minimal for 1 core or for 2 cores or per core, but you have a minimal of 3 cores, so something that is even when you don't have money issue, it's so oops. And I think it's not only oops, it's because it's like I don't know, buying a tank to go to the market and buy milk. It for sure doesn't fit our needs, or I don't know, parking a Ferrari in Ramley. So for sure, the fact that its price is an indicator. The fact that the price is so high is an indicator that the product doesn't fit our need. And also we say that it's a big enterprise stuff that doesn't fit our needs. So data Janus is not good. Data stack is not good. What else do we have? Step number 5. Okay. A developer asked, who say that we must have Grameen native? Maybe we can have, we can take a database that supports Grameen even if it's not native. When you put things like that, we have no other choice. I say, okay, you know what? Let's try even if it's not native. So we went back to Orient.db that has a really nice web console and it's a polished product and etc. So okay, let's try Orient.db in our dev environment. And then after a week, next please. We somehow by Demi contacted me with Luigi, a principal developer in Orient.db that also was connected to Luca, the founder of Orient.db, and they come on the call with also with the sales, and they explained us that in fact Orient.db has invented their own SQL additions to make it graph friendly, so you can query the Orient.db graph with a mixture of SQL and graph traversal inside the SQL, and also it supports Grameen, but as we guessed there will be performance issues, so they recommend not to write everything in Grameen, so to write part, and Grameen is complicated even for a genius like the Orient.db founder, so he recommended to write part of the code in Grameen and part of the code in SQL. And also, we have discovered that by definition, upsert, which is something very basic when you want to have mutation and to write to the database, is not supported by Grameen, and it's supported by Orient.db, but there is no way for them to convert automatically the coalice, which is a generalization of upsert into an upsert that will be atomic. So we. So it comes back to the fact that Orient.db doesn't support Grameen natively, and also our own strategy was based on the fact that if we choose a database that supports Grameen, we'll be able to migrate for free. But if we go with Orient.db, part of the code will be written in Grameen and part of it in the SQL, and anyway we'll have to rewrite part of the code, so we understood that there will never be migration for free, even if part of the language is, so now you can smile, Karim. And even in Grameen, part of, for example, regex patching is not part of Grameen. So every vendor that implements Grameen has its own way to express the regex matching. So anyway, you want to move from one to the other, you will have to deal with it. And some of them have Unix indexes, and some of them don't support Unix indexes, and some of them support all of Grameen, and some of them don't support all of Grameen. So you write a query with what you have in one database, and then when you migrate, it will break. So we are back to. So now it was the opposite, the dev saying, oops. Okay, so we are back to Neo4j. So who knows the Hasidic story about Yankele that dreamt about a treasure, night after night, and after a week he said, okay, you know what, I'm going to believe my dream, and the dream, God said to Yankele, if you go to the big city, near to the second bridge, you will find a treasure. So Yankele traveled there, and the bridge is guarded by guardians, and he doesn't know how to do. And after a week again, he goes there and said the guardian catches him and says, "What do you do here?" Say, "I dreamed about a treasure that is just here." And then the guardian says, "Oh, stupid man that believes in dream! I dreamed that there is in a small town there a small Yankele that has a treasure in his garden. You think I'm silly to go there to the garden to check if there is a treasure?" No. So the Yankele goes back home, looks in the garden, and finds the treasure.
So the main reason you choose Neo4j is because of Cypher? Because practically you said I didn't want to use OpenDB because the query language is not general.
Yeah, the reason why
there are many reasons to use OpenDB, other reasons. You are,
Like what?
You are going to use native language now.
Yes.
Neo4j in a native way. Right?
Yes.
So you can use only DB. Like for example.
Yeah, so now we want to compare. So okay, so now after that we did another team meeting, and when we say okay, forget about the portability and the universality of the language, which one do we want? Let's compare apple to apple. We have the code both in Neo4j of the queries, both in OrientDB. What do we want? And then we showed that Neo4j was the best for us.
Okay.
Our journey was to discover that the Grameen and is an illusion. It's not true that we can have a portability migration for free. So now we are back, and then for the reason that I mentioned before, because it's the most mature, it's a polished product, and the language also is very elegant, then we decided, but it's not the end of the story, we decided that to go for Neo4j. This was last Thursday, and then in the weekend, in the Slack of Microsoft that is called Teams, that is really not so bad, a developer posted something interesting. Okay, next. That Cosmos DB, the Microsoft database as a service, now supports Graph, and it's a general availability. So we knew that it was in beta, and now it's generally available. So someone said, you know what, let's try it. And then I said again, oops. So now we are just, as I'm speaking, we are trying Cosmos DB, and then I said, but you told me that you don't like Grameen. Yeah, but okay, we told you. I think that when we go to the core of the thing, of the argument, is really about that. As manager, I want something that with a very short time to market. As developer, I want to be sure that I have something that is cool, it's not stuck, and they're afraid by the fact that Neo4j is mature, maybe old technology. This is what at the core of the debate. And as for now, I don't know. I was not at work today, so I cannot give you a... This is as yesterday, and when we discovered that not all the Gremlin syntax is supported by Cosmos DB, part of it, and obviously our query uses part of the language that is not supported by Cosmos DB. But there are also advantages that I will mention now in more, and then it will relate to, what's her name? Ran's question about what are the core questions that you must ask yourself to choose a graph database. Okay, next, please. Okay, so if you are curious, you can give me a call next week, and I will tell you. Maybe we will find another one. Maybe we'll choose. I don't know.
All this is like how long process? 2 months, 3 months, 2 weeks?
2 months.
2 months.
In parallel, we developed the project, but we have not yet.
Of course,
it's you can say it's a waste, but I don't know any other way of, instead of saying, you know what, I'm the manager, I will decide.
It sounds okay.
Yeah, it's
Not 2 years.
No, it's not 2 years. It's not yet 2 years, I don't know. Maybe after 2 years I will come here again and step 53, we are going back to Neo4j. Okay. Okay, so now some challenges and questions. When you choose, for us, what were the challenges? Part of it is about the graph in general, and part of them are related to specific graph database. So there are 4 challenges that I'd like to address. So the first one, please, Irene, next. Okay, and this is what Erez also mentioned. Let's say that according to our heuristics or algorithm or PageRank or whatever, we decide that this artifact is very relevant to Patrick. But the fact that it's relevant doesn't mean that Patrick is allowed to access this artifact. So there is an inherent trade-off between bringing value to the user and interesting insights and privacy or security. And we have not yet found the proper way to address it. So for the moment, we are just in every debate about modeling and writing queries and algorithms. We are aware of this trade-off, and we hope that we can find good ways to address this trade-off. So I can just mention that this issue exists, and you should be aware of it. There is an inherent trade-off between security and security, privacy, and bringing value to the user. I can tell you just what we did for the moment. We can do 2 things. Before we serve this artifact, 5 minutes? To the user, we will check again if it has access or not. But then we might discover that all the recommendations the user are not accessed with. So, and what we want to do is, from time to time, to traverse the graph and to add an edge here when there is access, and to take this edge into consideration, but it has scalability issues. So, okay, next, please. Okay, multi-tenant. This is a big one, and here we have inherent issue with the Neo4j. So, as I said, our customers that will come are enterprise. So, and we want, obviously there should be no connection between the data from one enterprise and the other. But on the other hand, the natural way of mapping it in, for example, Neo4j is inside a big graph, or maybe a big graph with disconnected parts. But some customers will be reluctant to go with, will be afraid that their data sit near the data of other company. But as far as I know, there is no simple way in Neo4j to have multiple databases served by the same server. You can have multiple instances of Neo4j, for example, one instance per organization, but we want to have something like 1,000 customers, it might be a DevOps issue then.
And a small question, which kind of instance, where are you running all of these instances? On which cloud?
For the moment it's local.
Ah, it's local,
Yeah.
okay.
And for example, in Cosmos, it's possible to separate databases and also graph. So there is an inherent way to separate, but it's not part of Grameen.
But why do you want to do it at all? Why do you want to put all your customers in the same database?
Because we don't want to maintain 1,000 databases, just for DevOps issues.
You're holding an instance per customer? Always?
Like you don't want to have one big table in if it's sensitive data.
It's not different. It's not different from if you're talking about process, for example. In that case, you're doing multiple schemas.
Yes, multiple databases, or multiple table at least.
As far as I know, the only thing that you can do is tag all the nodes.
Yes, you can tag all the nodes, and Neo4j supports multi-property indexes. So it's a partial issue. So there are 4 solutions. One that is purely applicative and logic, to have separate org-IDs into each one of the artifacts and the topics. Another one will be to maintain edges. So each topic will have an edge to the organization, but this is not indexed, so the query will not work, will not be performant. Another one, you have to separate databases, and it's not supported by Neo4j, but it's supported by Cosmos and maybe by OpenDB, but we are not sure. The other solution is to have completely separate servers, but then it's DevOps and maybe pricing issue. Okay, next, let's move. Okay, full text search. Also, it's not part of Grameen, as I mentioned. And the question is, what is the good strategy? Do you really need to have... So also, when we started, we saw that the graph database will be our only database. Now we understand that it's better to let the good technology do what the technology is good at. And for example, full text, there is full text indexing in Neo4j and in Cosmos and in other, but it will never be as good as Elasticsearch of whatever. So the hybrid strategy seems to be a better strategy, and also it's not part of the standard of Grameen. Upsert also. So in Cypher you have something that's simply called merge, which is a magic. Instead of writing create, and it works both with nodes and with edges. So if I put here create, I will create a new topic named joy, no matter if the topic exists or not. If I use merge, if the topic exists, it will be used. If it doesn't, it will be created. So it's fantastic, and it's atomic, and there is no stuff like that in Grameen. There is coalesce, but it's not atomic. So if it's not atomic, it means it doesn't work. Or you have to protect at the application level to synchronize the right query. And the last one, yes, so this is how you do, so the same query that I wrote in one line in Neo4j, this is how it looks in Grameen. So you find the artifact, you give it a temporary name, and then with coalesce, you say either it exists, so you use it, or it doesn't exist, then you create the topic. No matter, it's really complicated, and it's not atomic, so it doesn't work, and it cannot be, because it's coalesce and not upsert, it cannot be translated by OpenDB to their upsert in SQL. Okay, so what have we learned, and what might be the takeaway from here? So first of all, you cannot impose a choice on your team. It's impossible. At the end of the day, they will have to deal with the technology. So even if you are right, it doesn't matter. You have somehow to help them choose the good one as a manager, but you cannot impose. You can only wait and say, choose, please, choose. On the other hand, you cannot let your team do whatever they want and fill matrices or Excel sheets with 100 of rows and comparison is also useless. The tip that I can give you is try to find a way to define quickly what really are your needs. It's a hard one, but I think it's the... If you take one insight from all this talk, this is the one that I will take. Try to find a way to define quickly what are your needs. And also, are you building a product or a technology? At the beginning, from the business perspective, we saw that we will want to build the technology and sell APIs, etc. So it was critical to choose the best database for our needs because we want to sell a technology. But when we switch and understand that we want, from business perspective, to sell a product, to be sure that you have the best technology, it's not an issue. You have to deal with the real issue, which are performance and scalability, etc. So also it's a good question. And also a big one, the fallacy of the hello world. So if you do, if you want to, for example, to test a language, it will not help to see how fast it is to write an hello world. Because what you will learn from that is that the language is good at writing hello world. But after that, when you want to build a real product and a real program and code, there will be no relationship between the coolness or the easiness of the hello world and the coolness and the easiness of the language. And the same for the languages, from the graph database. The fact that you can build a graph in 2 minutes in Grameen or in Neo4j, a simple graph doesn't mean anything to the real use case that you will face. So you have to pay the price and to use it with your real use case, not only the hello world like I saw here, like I showed in the picture. So be aware of it. There is no way to escape it, but you have to be aware that the fact that you are able to simply solve simple problem doesn't mean that you will be able to simply solve a real problem. So that's my tips. If you have any last slide. So if you have questions, if you want to join the journey, you can send me an email or find me in the meter.
Do you handle expiration or time to live for documents, for instance, if you don't want to keep all documents?
The way we will do it is to put on the edge the activity on the document. For example, I viewed this document or I edited this document, created a document, and then to make the query aware of the date of the edge. Maybe after a while we can go traverse the graph and remove all the edges and the artifacts that are orphans. But for the moment it's not handled automatically by the graph.
There's no TTL notion.
Don't think so. Other yes.
I want to ask regarding the issue of needing to separate the data for security reasons, and one of your solutions was to separate servers.
Yes.
Actually, it's about one of if you're considering Neo4j, one of its limitations is that it is actually limited to storing the data in one server, as far as I can remember.
No, I think there is sharding. They support kind of sharding.
I don't know of real sharding yet. It might happen, but people are trying a lot to think about how to break this limitation and store the data into servers because it's really limiting.
Yeah.
And now you're like given a gift. The fact that your data is supposed to be
split
and separated is like why not embrace it?
Yes, so we can embrace it. Yeah, but then
why force the big database to store all your data if you don't have to?
Yes, so what you say is that one limitation is Neo4j. Let's say you have one big graph that is not disconnected and you have too many nodes or edges that you cannot keep it in only one server, then it might be an issue with Neo4j. But in our case, we have maybe 1,000 of this separated graph, and each graph that represents the data of one company will fit in one server. So what you say is that we can embrace it and take it as to remove the limitation of the non-sharding capability of Neo4j. Yeah, but the problem is that I'm not sure we want to have 1,000 of instances running. That's just a DevOps.
There is a price.
Yes, but that's yes, it's a good point.
I also have another comment about it too. So one of the things, and I can't speak, like I'm not like a super expert on Neo, but one of the problems is when you separate your graphs and they're going across each other and you're making queries, where you're making hops between different servers. Every time you make a jump between different computers, it can introduce network latency, and that can be very expensive when everything you're doing is jumps and connections.
Even if it's supported by the database.
Yeah, there are ways to do it. There are a lot of methods.
Yeah.
Security aspect of it.
And I think that's the last question, sorry. Thank you very much.